If this is your first time to Columbia, we appreciate it very much and appreciate your attendance. The money that comes in through both the gate and through the concessions goes directly back into the academic boosters. They turn around and supply needs to both teachers and students at the school. This year, they're working on microscopes. They've done things as far as when students have won awards and needed help with airline tickets or things like that, they will step in and help with costs like that. So we appreciate your participants tonight. If anyone has not signed up, we would like you to take an opportunity to go back out and do that. If I can catch my breath here. Our judges tonight are Will Satterwhite, Lucas Burt, and Jenny Barber. And our MC, once again, is Adam Southern. Thank you and have a good evening.
All right, thank you, thank you, thank you. Late entry. Well, I'm just so proud to be here, in the words of the late, great Minnie Pearl. Glad to see so many of y'all out here tonight to help support Columbia Central High School and participate in this year's Liars Contest. We have several entries tonight, so just so happy to have everybody here, and I know we're going to hear some tall tales and have a lot of fun. Now, if you read my article in the paper, you would have saw where I wrote that we were going to have a bluegrass band. Well, that was a lie. We didn't have a bluegrass band. I hate that. So I won't be able to dance for you tonight. I know that breaks everybody's heart. Before we start, I'm going to have a few announcements. I see several of you munching on some popcorn out there, so you've already found the concession stand. But some of you may not know that there is a concession stand just out this door and take a left. They have drinks, candy, ring pops, popcorn, and pickles. So anything that you want, they got it. Go see them. Also out there, you will see the Tennessee Tech Alumni Association. They have a table set up with several of the Mule Day T-shirts and items. And I'm just going to show you this T-shirt here. Nice looking T-shirt. It's the right color. It's orange. So if you're a Vols fan like I am, that's a plus, always a plus. Those T-shirts start out at $10 and they go up to $12. They also have a baseball shirt with 2 buttons. That's a little bit higher. They have lapel pins, mugs, hats, and belt buckles. So, again, a one-stop shop. And they told me an interesting fact earlier. As I said, the Alumni Association does that for Tennessee Tech. They've been doing it since the 1970s, and since that time, they've raised over $900,000 for scholarships by selling these T-shirts. Give them a big round of applause. All right, well, let's get down to the line. Before we start, let me tell you a little bit about the Liars Contest. The Liars Contest started in the late 1970s, and according to tradition, it started at Burger King, the home of the Whopper. And since that time, we finally moved here to Columbia Central Auditorium, where we've been telling lies ever since. And the way the Liars Contest works, you sign up out there in the lobby. They bring me this sheet of paper with your name on it. I call you up to the stage, and you have 5 minutes to tell us a good lie. Please don't go over 5 minutes, and please keep it clean. If you don't keep it clean, I might have to tackle you. So keep it clean. And just a lot of great fun. And again, this is going to a great cause, the Columbia Central Parent Teacher Student Association. And again, I thank you for them. And I still see some folks coming in. That's good. Nice crowd tonight. Y'all turn around and look. We got people all the way to the back. All right, one more. All right, y'all ready for some lies? Let's hear it. All right. All right, coming up first, we have Ron Fletcher from Middleburn, West Virginia. Let's see. This is not his first Mule Day. He's attended 18 of these, traveled 520 miles to get here. And it says, tell us one thing about yourself. And he says that he is a liar. So it looks like he's at the right place tonight. So help me welcome Mr. Ron Fletcher.
Most everybody takes a little truth and kind of elaborated on it to make a lie. A few years ago, I was a representative from West Virginia to the American Sheep Industry Convention, and we were in Reno, Nevada, and we were staying in John Augustus Nugget. And the night of the Make It Yourself with Wool banquet, when all the young ladies model all the things that they've made, I had rushed up to the room to get a little better attire on, a sport coat and a tie, and as I rushed back out and got on the elevator, this little old lady is on the elevator already. And we're pretty high up in this tower there. And anyway, we went down about 2 or 3 floors, and the elevator stopped, and this gorgeous brunette gets on the elevator. My, oh my, does she smell good. That old lady's going. That girl, she steps over beside of her, and she leans down and she says, Chanel number 5, $150 an ounce. We go down a few more floors, and the elevator stops. And this gorgeous redhead gets on. And my, oh my, did she really smell good. This old lady is going. That girl steps over and she says, Passion by Ralph Lauren, $200 an ounce. We go down a few more floors, and that old lady broke wind. My, oh my. My, oh my. As she steps off the elevator, she looks back over her shoulder and she says, broccoli, 99 cents a pound.
Ron Fletcher, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know, that sounded like a true story to me. All right. Well, all the way from the big city of Culleoka, Tennessee, the metropolis of Murray County, we have Ray Rummage. And he traveled 12 miles to be here with us tonight. That doesn't sound quite as impressive as West Virginia, does it? But y'all ain't never seen Culleoka. That's right. All right, Mr. Ray Rummage.
You know, sometimes you need to pay attention. You're told in school, pay attention. This will be on the test. Your parents, pay attention. Well, this is a story about some people that did not pay attention. There's a young man, and he wanted very much to preach. So he started honing his craft, and he was encouraged. He showed a lot of promise. Finally, he got a chance to try out. And he was all excited. He worked himself up a #1 tryout sermon. And on the appropriate day, the appointed day, he shows up, meets the people. Comes time to preach his sermon, he stepped up to the pulpit. He gives a short biography of his life. And he steps back. For my lesson topic today, I have chosen the passage from Revelations 22, verse 12. And behold, I come quickly. And he stopped. He had a senior moment. You see, he thought he could do this without notes. All he had was his Bible. He draws a blank. He gets a little nervous. He said, I'll just have to try again. So he backs up. And he steps forward. And Jesus said, and behold, I come quickly. Now he is really nervous. He looks out over the audience, all these big eyes. He said, I'll try again. I just have to apologize. Why did I think I could do this without my notes? Why did I think I could do it without my notes? He says all this to himself. He backs up. I'm not used to microphones. He tries it one more time. And in his nervousness, he stumbles, knocks the pulpit over, right out over the communion table, right into the laps of the people sitting in the front row. Now, all churches have a front row, but this one had people sitting in it, and that's where he landed. He is tore all to pieces. You can imagine the commotion. And he gets up and he says, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. It's my fault. Oh, no, brother, everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. I said, I'm sure you got a fine mess. We'll get this straightened up. No, it's my fault. No, it's our fault. What do you mean your fault? You told us 3 times you were coming. We just sat here like knots on a log. I wouldn't have time for nothing, would I? This is another preacher story. He is laying it on, fire and brimstone. And he looks off to his right, and the good brother is asleep. And this kind of infuriated him. He says, I'll fix him. You know, sometimes we can be a little bit too smart for our britches, you know, and that's what he did in this case. He says, anyone, when they die, that don't want to go to heaven, stand up. Well, the gentleman woke up, jumped up. Everybody's snickering, laughing. He's embarrassed. He straightened his tie. He says, I'm sorry, I was asleep. No reason to be asleep. Had a good night's sleep last night, but I was asleep. Therefore, being asleep, I don't know, didn't hear the question. Not hearing the question, I don't know the answer, but I do take comfort in one thing. What might that be, brother? You agree with me?
Ray Rummage, the pride of Culleoka. I remember going to some preaching meetings, and you know, the old preacher was so old. He was up there preaching, and he came up to one of those fiery tops, and his dentures fell out. He just reaches down there, and he picks them up, brushes them off, puts them back in, and he just keeps on preaching. I preached my first funeral this last spring, and that was, I have a true admiration for people who can preach, because it's not for me. Liars contests are more my speed. Next we have Joan Kittrell from Mount Pleasant. All right. It's going to take us a couple of minutes, and she said to tell us one thing about her, and she sells used cars. So, what's that, first place? Selling used cars. I don't know if that qualifies you or not. I'm not going to make a comment. I think you're going to have to go out and back around. Well, while we're waiting on Miss Kittrell, we'll come back to her. She can go ahead and make her way around. Let's call up Jacob Frawley from Nolensville, Tennessee. Where's Jacob at? All right, and he has been here several times in the past, and he is going to Hardin University right now. So got us a college student right here, Mr. Jacob Frawley.
Thank you. The story I'm about to tell y'all is a story that my grandfather has told me many times, and of course it's my grandfather, so I know it's true. Back in the small town where he used to live in Alabama, there was an old storekeeper, and he was known just for cheating people out of their money in any way he could. And so you'd come up with your sugar or your rice or whatever you were buying, and he'd kind of sneak his finger on the scales, and he'd run the weight up so he could charge you more for not what you were getting. He was also known for overpricing everything in the store, and so if you didn't call him on it, he would just take your money from you. And so if you'd say, sir, I'm pretty sure this is overpriced, he'd say, oh, sorry, there must be a mistake in my books. And he'd mark it down for you. And he'd also shortchange you. You know, he just wouldn't give you back, you know, $20 and you don't get back what you need. You're out of your money. And so it was kind of starting to worry the people because they had nowhere else to go. The next store was 10 miles, and nobody was going to go that far just to go to the store. And so all the women in the town that go there, you know, they start whispering. They want to get him saved. They think if they can get Jesus in his life, that he might quit his lying ways and start working his business honestly. And so they'll go in the store and they'll start trying to invite him to church. And they'll start trying to get him to come to church. And he's never rude about it, but he always just turns them down, says he's got something to do or he just doesn't want to go. And so the men start working on him a little bit, and it's the same thing. He just kind of turns them down, not too rude about it, but he just doesn't want to go. And so finally there's a Baptist revival that comes through town for about 2.5 weeks. And so the women were like, all right, now we got him. They get him to come, and on the last night, he refused to come until the very last night. And he figured, you know what, I'm going to come, I'm going to sit on the front row. You know, maybe everybody will see me, and I can just kind of get this over with. And so he's sitting front row, and everybody starts witnessing to him. And so he goes up front to get saved. And to this day, my grandfather still says he doesn't know whether he did it for Jesus or whether he just wanted people off his back. But we usually give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he wanted Jesus. And so everybody was just astonished that he went up there. And so the next day, everybody goes to the store to try to figure out, you know, how different is he going to be. And so, you know, he puts on a good front. He's walking around the store singing hymns and quoting Bible verses and stuff. And everybody's sitting there. You know, the women are all happy that he's finally saved and all this. And a little boy walks in, and he was notorious for not liking children in his store. Just didn't like children in his store. And so the kid comes in, and he wants a nickel's worth of candy. And a nickel's worth of candy is probably a lot of candy back then, but he'd only give him 2 or 3 cents worth of candy to a little kid. But this time, the little kid comes in and said he wants a nickel's worth, and he pulls a bag off the back shelf and gives it to him, 25 cents worth of candy, gives it to him for a nickel. So he takes the nickel, and when he goes to drop it in the money box, he says, "Suffer all the little children unto me." And so all the women, you know, they're all smiling and giggling. They're all happy that they think he's on the right track. And, you know, the guys are they're trying to hide it, but they're happy that he's on the right track too. And so about that time, Miss Myers walks in, and it's her dad's birthday coming up. And she wants to get him a gift. And so he walks to the back, and he gets an expensive tie and puts it in the bag. $10 or $12 tie, charges Mrs. Myers $2 or $3 for it. And so she walks out, and everybody is astonished. So he takes the $2 or $3, drops it in the money box, and says, "Honor thy father and thy mother." And so everybody's, you know, just smiling and shaking hands and slapping each other's backs. They're all excited that this guy finally got saved. And about that time, a big old pickup truck pulls up in front of the store, horse trailer on the back of it. A heavy-set cowboy walks in, 10-gallon hat, spurs on his boots, you know, all decked out. And he comes in and says, "I need a horse blanket." And the store owner had 3 horse blankets in the back. They never sold horse blankets for some reason. They had 3 horse blankets in the back. And they were all the same. They were just different colors. One was brown, one was green, one was red. And so he says, "Okay, just give me 1 second." He goes back, he picks the brown one up, shakes the dirt and dust and straw and bugs all off of it, and brings it out and puts it on the counter and says, "That'll be $9.99, sir." He says. The cowboy lowers his hat and goes, "You do realize that I have a $50,000 horse in the back of that trailer?" He's like, "No, sir." He said, "I will not put a cheap horse blanket on the back of a $50,000 horse." And so he said, "Okay, I'll go back and get another one." Comes out, puts the blanket back where it was, and picks up the green one, shakes it out and brings it back and says, "Sir, this one was $49.99. He said, "I thought I told you I have an expensive horse in the back of that trailer. I will not put a cheap blanket on the back of my horse." He says, "Okay, I'm sorry." Brings it back, puts it on the floor, and picks up the red one and shakes this one out really good. And he carries it out real gingerly, like he's holding gold or something. And he puts it on the counter, and he says, "Sir, this one's $99.99. And he says, "All right, I'll take it." Pulls out his billfold, gives him a crisp $100 bill, hands it to him, takes it, and says, "Keep the change." Walks out with his horse blanket and just takes off. So everybody's astonished. They're like, "We know that horse blanket's only worth $10. So they were wondering how he was going to justify himself on this one. So he takes the money, and he walks over to the box, and right before he drops it in, he says, "He was a stranger, and I took him in."
Jacob Frawley. Good luck at university, Jacob. With those lying skills, you're going to make it far. And before we get to Miss Kittrell in the back, I see our Mule Day Queen and her court have just walked in. They have a very busy schedule to keep, so I'm going to ask our Mule Day Queen and her court to come on towards the front and get on stage with me. All right, here they come. They look nice, don't they? Y'all give them a big round of applause. Welcome, ladies.
Howdy. We got to get situated here. We've got a really good story to tell you. I'd like to start out by introducing ourselves. I'm your 2014 Mule Day Queen, Brittany Redden.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Robin Hales, and I'm the first runner-up.
Good evening. I'm Daisy Joe, and I'm your second runner-up.
My name is Taylor Willis, and I'm your third runner-up.
I'm Shelby Caperton, and I'm the fourth runner-up. Thank you for having us here tonight. We prepared a little something for y'all. I have to tell you about this hunk of a mule I met at the park earlier. Oh my gosh, I'm talking a total babe. He took me to the fish fry, and I'm pretty sure it's love. We even split a bowl of banana pudding.
No way. Well, let me tell you about the mule I've met this week. We went to the Bluegrass Music Festival, and he was tapping his foot along with the beat. And he said to me, that's the way his heart beats for me. It's real.
Well, my mule and I went to the line dancing, and we danced all night. And he said we should call it heart dancing for the way I danced into his heart.
That's serious. Well, my mule, he took me to the pancake breakfast because he knows how much I love food. And he even drew a heart with the syrup. And I mean, I couldn't even eat it. It was so cute.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but guess what? I'm dating the king mule. You know, because I got to be queen mule. Oh my gosh, this man is a total babe. I mean, just rocking it. And he took me to the parade this Saturday morning, and we watched all the floats go by, and he even told me he would still love me if I was as stubborn as a mule. You know, I really want you guys to meet him. I mean, like, he's totally famous. I mean, oh gosh, where's my cellular device? Hold on.
Here, use mine.
Oh, thanks, girlfriend. Hey, Trooper. Hey, honey, where you at? I want the girls to meet you. Yeah. What do you mean?
That's mine.
No, excuse me? No. No. Who's your woman? Thank you, guys.
Your 2014 Mule Day Queen and her court. Give them a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. All right, we still have Miss Kittrell in the back here, if I can find a way to get her out. All right, here she is.
Thank you. And I really am a car dealer and a car salesman. My husband told me not to say that, but it's the truth. I want you to see my daughter right here. In 1991, she was in the Mule Day pageant. This is true. And I went and bought this beautiful, long, beaded gown. It cost me a lot of money, so I had to finance it. And we were in the pageant that year, and she got first runner-up. She was 15. And that year, Jeannie McConnell won it. So the next year, we went back, and we wore the same pink dress, and she got first runner-up, and Carol Coleman won it. So the third year, she was 17. I had several phone calls that said, are y'all going to wear that same pink dress? And I said, yeah, because it's the only one we have. So she went back, and this year she won it. So she's the 1993 Mule Day Queen. And we had a lot of good adventures. All right, I want to be a little bit on the serious side first before you hear my story. I'm a heart transplant candidate. Through no fault of my own, a virus hit my heart 14 years ago. So I'm with Vanderbilt, and now the only thing that's keeping me alive is my LVAD. And it's here in a vest, has a computer, 2 batteries. It runs electric wires in my body, and that pumps my blood. Currently in the United States, there are 123,000 people waiting for an organ transplant. This is something that each of you could help with. Just sign the back of your driver's license and check organ transplant, and you can give life to another. Thank you. Okay, on with the story. Me and my little dog Spot, we were playing outside in the flowers and rolling in the grass. And then I remembered, we got to hurry up. We're going to the Mule Day parade. So we jumped in the car, and down the road we went. A couple miles down the road, I looked down, and there was about a 6 or 8 inch centipede on my leg. So I thought, what am I going to do? Well, I looked in the car, and I couldn't find anything. I found a lint brush. So I scooped that centipede up. We were just looking at each other, and I was just so happy because he couldn't get me anymore. So we went back home, me and little Spot, and I had to go in and kind of change my pants. And then I came back out to get that centipede, and he was gone. So I thought, he's in my car. So I looked everywhere, and all of a sudden, I had this long hair. I felt him in my hair. Well, I ran back inside, and I got that lint brush, and I started pulling at my hair. And this is all I had left. So I had to change my pants again. So I thought, the centipede is gone. So I looked down, and there he was on my shirt. So I ran all around, and I fell down a bunch of front porch steps, and I broke both arms and both legs. But before I called 911, I looked down, and there was a centipede outside. So I kicked him as far as I could. Well, we got to the hospital, and they put me in a pretty well full body cast except my head and my toes. Well, later I looked down. Well, there's that centipede. He's crawling on my cast. He crawled inside. So the doctors come in, and they took a little vacuum, and they sucked it, and they pulled out several yellow legs. And then they said, well, we're sure he's dead. I said, okay. So later he came out again, and he crawled up to my shoulder, and he said, I want to apologize to you. I said, why? He said, for putting you through all this. And he said, my name is Charlie. So I said, okay, Charlie. Well, he really liked me. So he called all his friends and cousins to come see me. Well, we had Mercy, the praying mantis. We had Blackie, the cricket. We had Katie, I forgot what she was. Katie did, that's right. Well, then we had a whole audience. Well, all of a sudden, here come this centipede in, and we noticed he's making some sound, and he had 50 casts on his feet. And Charlie said, well, what happened to you, cuz? He said, I don't know. But someone kicked me real far and broke all my legs. So I thought, oh, no, I can't tell Charlie. It would hurt his feelings. Well, about that time, we heard this woman voice complaining and yelling, and here come in Cuz's wife. Well, she was expecting any time. So we talked a little bit about Mule Day and everything, and all of a sudden she started yelling. And she said, I'm going to have 50 baby peds. Well, sure enough, she did. So she pulled out her little bag and pulled out hundreds of diapers, little tiny diapers, and thousands of booties. So Cuz fainted, and some other cousins had to take him home. But Cuz said before he left he was so disappointed because he was going to ride the King Mule in the parade. Well, now he couldn't. You know, mules like centipedes because they walk on their back and they give them a good massage. So all the other cousins and crickets and animals, they sung me a song. It was beautiful. And the praying mantis, he prayed a beautiful prayer, but he had a hard time because he had to hold them britches up. They were kind of swagging. I seen his red underwear. So that's my granddaughter laughing. So we watched the Mule Day Parade, and when the Queen Mule came on, the Queen Beauty Pageant winner, the praying mantis, Charlie said, I'd walk on her back any day. So we had a good time watching the parade. And then we got home, and I can't find Spot or Charlie anywhere. So if you see Spot or Charlie, please call me, because I really miss them. Where'd my daughter go? This will only take a second. Thank you.
Thank you. Joanne Kittrell, ladies and gentlemen. And in all seriousness, we will be praying for you, and we hope that you are successful. Okay, let's go on. Well, as I said, she was a used car, or is a used car salesman, so I don't know if that qualifies for a liar or not. But I can tell you that this is election year in Murray County. So y'all know how to tell if a politician's lying. His lips are moving. All right. Our next contestant, who do we have? Dr. Hugh McCampbell from Sweetwater, Tennessee. Dr. Hugh might be getting some business this weekend. I hope not. He's a veterinarian. So come on up here, Dr. Hugh.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. I've been a large animal veterinarian a little over 40 years, and you see a lot of things in that length of time. One time, a client called from outside of Sweetwater over there up in the mountains, said he'd been losing cows. So I said, well, I'll come up there and take a look. So I did, and the cows weren't showing any symptoms that day. So I thought, well, we better get some samples of the grass and the water and the soil to see if the lab could tell us anything we might be on the lookout for. So sent them off, and the lab report came back, big old long computer sheet, and it had parts per million of this and parts per billion of that. It didn't say anything about a cow, and I couldn't tell head nor tail of it. So I sent it to a friend of mine in California that analyzes herd health laboratory data, and he wrote back, said, I can't see anything pattern to this laboratory data that would help me tag a name on what's going on. Best thing I'd recommend is go up there and look at the cows. So I did, and when I got up there, the old boy and I sat there looking, and the cows had walked from a barn down across the barn lot to the creek, and as they did, they had to go through a big old patch of mud, and I commented on that. I said, they can't go around that patch of mud, can they? He said, no, we call it bog mud. And I said, it looks like it sticks to them, too. They got that stuff all over them. He said, yeah, it sure does. And I said, I believe, I looked at him a little bit more, and I said, I believe maybe I've got your situation figured out here. He said, well, what's that? I said, well, every time them cows walk through that patch of bog, they drag their tail, and the bog sticks to their tail. Old sticky mud like that. And I said, they go back through the bog the next time, and the bog sticks to bog, sticks to bog, and more bog sticks to bog. And pretty soon they walk through that bog so many times, they got such a big glob of bog on their tail, it's got so heavy, it stretched their skin so tight, and held their eyes open, and they died from lack of sleep. That's a veterinary diagnostic challenge, ain't it? I covered about a 40-mile radius out there from Sweetwater. I've got a storeroom and a truck, so I just drive through the country all day treating cattle and horses. We milked till I was in high school, and so I just feel like I get up every morning, I feel like I'm getting ready to go help the neighbors. But one day I was coming in from the country there around Sweetwater, and I was trying to get to town in time to see a ball game, and I'd left my watch at the house that morning. And I thought, man, I need to know what time it is because I need to run a box of mastitis medicine to another dairy back on another road there. But if I got talking, I'm afraid I'd miss that ball game. So I called the clinic on the two-way radio. Nobody answered. And I called the house where there's a two-way radio unit, and nobody answered. So I knew the girls had closed the clinic and the wife had gone to the ballpark. I thought, man, if I could just tell what time it was, I'd know how to do. So I thought the next place I come to on this road was another dairy farm, and I pulled in and they were milking. And so I went in there, and the old boy motioned me to come in the pit. And he said, hey, Dr. Hugh, can I help you? I said, yeah, I left my watch at the house this morning and wonder if you could tell me what time it is. He said, why, sure. And he walked back along a run of cows being milked there and rubbed on one of them's udder. Come back over to me, and he said, it's 15 minutes after 5. I said, wait a minute, I milked cows all my life, and I ain't never seen anybody rub on a cow's udder to tell what time it is. How'd you do that? He said, it ain't very hard. If you raise it up high enough, you can see the clock hanging on the wall. Thank you.
Dr. Hugh Campbell. Let's see who we have next. Let's see. Janet Rich from Tuscola, Illinois. Traveled 400 plus miles to be here. Is an ex-teacher, so I imagine she's heard plenty of lies in her time. Dog ate my homework. I'll tell him what. Miss Jean Westmoreland is here tonight. She remembers me from when I was in school, so she could probably tell a bunch of stories on me. I'll try to keep the microphone away from her. All right, here you go, Miss Rich.
Well, I'm from Illinois, and my daughter has come with me. And before I get into my story, I kind of really wanted to say something about your town. It's really a nice place. We happen to have been through here about 10 years ago. I happened to just come through here, and you were having this Mule Day thing, and we happened to be here, so I didn't get to attend and things, and I had told my daughters, well, I'd really like to come here. I'm going to be 75 pretty soon. I thought, no, I'd really like to come. However, it's like anything else. We started out, and the rain was coming, and it was bad all the way, and she had to do most of the driving. Anyway, we got down here, and we came to the motel out here at the edge of town, and naturally, we had to go to the restroom. That's normal for people our age. So I said, why don't we stop here at this McDonald's? I love McDonald's. Anyway, we stopped there, and I said, I'll put a little order in. I got to have a cup of coffee and stuff. And Dawn said, well, I got to go to the bathroom. I said, okay, go ahead. I'll take care of getting stuff. So I got my tray full of a sandwich and coffee, and she had a Diet Coke. And at any rate, she came out, and I took the tray back, set it down on a table back there. Well, I forgot the napkins and the straws. You know how that goes. Sure enough, I went and got them, and I turned around, and I thought, well, where did I put that food? About that time, she comes out, and she said, well, where's our food, Mom? And I said, well, I don't know. I said, I put it right over there on that table. She said, well, somebody's sitting there eating. And I said, well, I mean, this is what really went on. And I thought, well, okay. Anyway, I looked, and this man was kind of scruffy, kind of like a homeless type person. And he was sitting there eating, and I said, that was our food. He's been eating it. And she said, oh, you know, you just forgot. And I said, no, that's the sandwich I was eating, and he's eating it. She said, well, go tell the manager. So I make a trip up to the manager's office and say, could I ask for the manager? Which she came out. It was a woman. And said, yeah. Just don't cause any problems. She said, I'll give you what you ordered. What did you order? We ordered the coffee and the sandwich and the fries and stuff. Well, I'm a teacher, or was a teacher. I just couldn't let it go. You know, it's just like, I sat there while we were having the sandwich and we were eating things. I can't believe I said, it's just ruining our whole trip. You know, this is a great time, and I'm enjoying going to the Mule Days, and it's like, he's eating our sandwich, and he's not, I don't see that lady coming back. The cops aren't coming. I don't think anything's been done. She said, well, I don't know. We finished up our sandwiches and things. I told her, I said, go get the car. And I said, when I come out the door, I said, I'm going to jump in the car, and I said, I'm going to hit it. You go. We're going to go to the motel. She said, well, okay. But now, Mom, what are you going to do? And I said, well, just do what I ask. Well, I had noticed that this scruffy man who was eating our sandwiches, he had a bag sitting there beside him, like a paper bag, grocery sack type thing, kind of curled down. And I thought, Anyway, when I leave, I go walking right by him. I grab his bag, and I thought, I am sick and tired of these people that do stuff like this and get by with it. The teacher and me coming out. Anyway, I grabbed the bag, and out the door I go. I said, okay, hit it, Dawn. And she screeches away, and we're going to the motel, I guess. So anyway, I thought, well, I just had to share that story with you. It just almost ruined our whole day here and everything. Of course, I'm curious, or I think maybe you're curious, what was in the bag. It was full of bologna, just like I'm feeding you.
Janet Rich, ladies and gentlemen. What subject did you teach? Subject? Did you teach? Math teacher. Okay. I wouldn't have done too good in your class, I'll tell you that. Where's Gary Holt at? From Columbia, Tennessee. Here comes Gary. This is his first Mule Day, or so he says. But it says he lies a lot, too, so I don't know if you could believe anything he said. So here he comes, Gary Holt.
I'll tell y'all about the time I took one of my college professors duck hunting. He came to me and he said, all my life I've been teaching other people. I've never took the time to enjoy life. Would you please teach me how to duck hunt? I said, sure, it'd be my pleasure. I got an uncle, got a big farm, got about a 10-acre lake on it, got duck blinds set up on it. We'll be glad to go down there. Next weekend, we went down to my uncle's place, duck hunting, went out to the duck blind. My uncle had this beautiful black lab dog. We got out in the duck blinds, sat there, my Uncle Robert, Professor Earl, myself, and the black lab dog named Butterbean. Butterbean sat right down at the feet of my Uncle Robert. We sat in the duck blind for about 2 minutes, and a duck flew over. Professor Earl took aim at the duck. One shot, boom, duck falls in the water. Butterbean looks up at my Uncle Robert. Uncle Robert nods at Butterbean. Butterbean jumps into the lake, swims out into the lake about halfway out the lake, grabs that duck, swims back to the duck blind, lays that duck blind right at Professor Earl's feet. Professor Earl said, man, I ain't never in my life seen anything like that. I have never seen anything like that. A little while later, 2 ducks fly over. Professor Earl and Uncle Robert both take aim at the ducks. 2 shots ring out. Both ducks fall into the water. Butterbean jumps up, jumps out into the lake, swims out there, gets both ducks, brings them back, lays one duck at Uncle Robert's feet, lays the other duck at Professor Earl's feet. Professor Earl said, man, I have never in my life seen anything like that. Where can I get a dog like that? I got to have a dog like that. Uncle Robert said, let me tell you something. He said, now a lot of people don't know this about a black lab, but said you got to be real careful about the black lab. He said, you got to be real careful. He said, you can't just get any black lab. He said, you got to be careful about the black lab you get. He said, what do you mean? He said, well, said, you got to look at the black lab's hiney. He said, the black lab has got to have a real small hiney. He said, the black lab get a wide hiney. Everybody knows when he jump in the water, he going to start taking on water when he gets out there. Before he can swim and get back, he going to drown. He going to take in too much water. He said, you got to get a dog got a real small hiney. Professor Earl said, I think I can remember that. He said, but I got to have a black lab. So Professor Earl, the next day, he starts looking on Craigslist. Some of y'all looked on Craigslist yourselves, haven't you? Professor Earl found an ad on Craigslist, male 6-month-old black lab, already has shots and wormed, ready to go. Professor Earl said, that's my dog. I got to go get the dog. He drives over to the man's house. He said, I've got to see the dog. I got to inspect the dog. So the man said, all right, you can inspect it. He brings the dog around. Professor Earl gets down on the knees, raises the little dog's tail up and stares at his hiney for about 3 minutes. Man, so what in the world are you doing? He said, man, he said, I got to inspect this dog. He looked at the dog, and he got up, and he said, I can't take this dog. He said, what's wrong with him? He said, his hiney's too wide. He said, what's that got to do with it? He said, everybody knows if a dog got a wide hiney, when he jumps in the water, he's going to take on water. He's going to drown. I'm going to be out of dog. He said, I can't take this dog. Man said, hold on just a minute. Man got down. He reached his hand between the little dog's hind legs, reached up and grabbed the dog by his most private parts. I don't need more more specific than that, do I? He turns the dog's little private parts about half a turn. The dog lets out a loud yelp. His little hiney gets about that wide. He said, I'm sorry, I had the dog set for quail.
Gary Holt, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, man. It's like those 2 old boys that were at the University of Georgia football game, Earl and Bubba. They were sitting in the stands watching that little bulldog, Ugga. Of course, Uga started licking himself in that place where dogs want to lick themselves. And old Earl starts nudging Bubba and says, "Daggum, I wish I could do that." Bubba said, that dog will bite you. That dog will bite you. I shouldn't have told that. I apologize. All right. Up next, we have Mr. Fred Frawley from Brentwood, Tennessee. This is probably his 5th or 6th Mule Day and Liars contest, and he's been a very successful storyteller with us. He's been 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and last place, he says. Last place? Never been 1st. Okay, well, this is a liar's contest. I just lied. All right, tell us something about yourself. Says he'd rather chop down a cherry tree than tell a lie. So, Mr. Fred Frawley.
Rather chop down a cherry tree than tell a lie. And I'd rather eat fried chicken than tell a lie, too. When I was growing up, about your age, how old are you? How old? Okay, I was about 10 years old. And we lived out in the country. And I'll tell you a little bit about the lay of the land. We had a big garden, raised up enough to feed us, and what we didn't eat that summer, we could can and eat through the summer. Had some chickens and cows, and not too far down the road from my house was a wonderful creek called Cypress Creek. And across that creek was a wooden bridge, and just on the other side of that wooden bridge was the schoolhouse. And so during the school year, I was a good boy. I went to school, and I'd want to skip class and go play in the creek or fish, but I went to school. And finally, summertime came each year. And during the summertime, all I had to do in the morning was weed the garden. And in the afternoon, I could go fishing down in Cypress Creek. And I had some really good spots. My favorite spot I called my honey hole. Was a deep spot in that creek that had wonderful catfish. And so I'd asked my mother to save up some scraps of the chickens that she'd wring the neck on Sunday, and just the skin and some gizzards and some liver and things that catfish like. And I would use that bait the next I'd go down, and I'd start pulling catfish out of that hole. I loved the summertime because that's what I got to do every afternoon. And one afternoon I pulled out so many I ran out of bait. And the very last fish I pulled out was about a 5-pound catfish. I started gathering those catfish up, putting them on a stringer, and most of them, it was a hot day, had dried out, and they were kind of stiff, and they were passed away. But that last fish, he was still breathing. Or trying to breathe. Of course, he was out of the water, but he was going. I went ahead and put him on the stringer, and I headed home. Got home, I started cleaning my fish. I cleaned them all till I finally got to that last 5-pounder, and he was still breathing. And I put his head up on the stump there, and I was fixing to whack it off. And all of a sudden, he just stopped breathing a little bit, and he started sniffing a little bit, and a big catfish tear came out of the side of one eye. And I just couldn't kill that poor fish. Looking at me with that eye and crying, and I knew he'd been out of the water long enough. It wasn't creek water. So I just took that catfish and I put him in the barrel on the side of the house where we caught rainwater. Took the fish on in, and Mother cooked up a good catfish dinner and fried okra, and it was wonderful. And I was laying there that night kind of studying about that catfish living when the rest of them died. I thought, well, maybe it's just because he's bigger. And the next morning after I did my weeding, I went out and looked in the barrel, and he was swimming around, and I thought, I'm just going to try something. So I picked him up and set him in the grass for about 2 hours. And he was still breathing, and I put him back in the barrel, and the next day I left him out 4 hours, and he was still breathing. Next day, Left him out just about all day, about 8 hours. Put him back in the barrel. And by the end of the week, it was my big test to see if he could make it. I took that catfish out and laid him in the grass. All day he stayed out there, and I went to bed that night, got up next morning, and he was alive. And he was just breathing air. That catfish had learned to breathe out of water. Well, at the time I didn't have a little dog or cat or anything, so I decided to make a pet out of him, and I took a piece of rope and I made a little collar, put him around his neck, and I'd just lead him around the neighborhood, and he'd just kind of wiggle through the grass and the dirt. I'd even taught him how to do some tricks. I even gave him a name. His name was Lester. Now, I have to tell you at this point in the story, I hope most of you purchased one of these bandanas, because most of the tales, you got one right there, okay, just get it ready. 'Cause most of the tales I like to tell here and my grandchildren are pretty funny, but this ends pretty sad, and I just want you to get ready for it. Well, Lester and I had the biggest summer. I taught him how to roll over, and he loved for me to scratch him right behind his gill. And I'd say, "Speak," and he'd go, almost like a dog. I had an old hula hoop, and I taught him to jump through the hula hoop. He couldn't jump up very high. Actually, he just kind of waddled through it. And we had a wonderful time that summer, and we had some neighbors around, and I'd pull him along, and Lester and I, it was the best pet I ever had. I was about your age. Can you imagine having a pet like that? That'd be so cool. Well, finally the summer was over, and it was time to go back to school, and I headed down the road, headed toward the creek and going on to the schoolhouse, and I looked around, and here come Lester. And by that time, I'd made him a little house, kind of like a dog house, except it was a catfish house. And we'd feed him table scraps, and he'd grown quite a bit. He was up to about 7, 8 pounds. And I said, "Lester, you got to go back home. Go on back. Get." And I picked up some little rocks, not big ones, because I didn't want to hurt him. I'd throw at him, and it hit him, and he finally went on back. I told Mother that night, I said, "I don't know what we're going to do." And she said, "Well, I'll try to hang on to him." But every once in a while, Mother said, "He sticks me with that old fin." Well, that's because he's my pet, Mother. The next day, I started out to school again, and I looked over my shoulder, and here come old Lester coming through the grass, following me, and I took a little pebble and threw, and bing, it hit. But he was bound and determined to follow me, and I thought, well, I guess I can't do much about it, and I'm going to be late for school. So I went up over the bridge, then went over Cypress Creek there, and went on to just about to get in the schoolhouse door, and I looked over my shoulder, and I didn't see Lester anywhere. So I walked back to that little bridge and walked up over the creek, and there was a board that had gotten rotten and left a little space there in the bridge, and I looked down through there, and there was Lester, bellied up in that creek, and he drowned. My fish drowned. I just wanted to tell you about that. So,
Fred Frawley. Well, this is our final contestant in the adult division, Larry Arms from Caledonia. Came over 700 miles to be here. Actually flew his own airplane to be here with us tonight. So glad to have him here with us tonight. If there's anybody else that would like to tell a story, there's still time to go and sign up. Go fill out one of these little applications here, and we'll let you tell. Here's Mr. Larry Arms.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, my story tonight started a long time ago when an Icelandic fishing boat got lost and with their crew, and they ended up on foreign shores. when they landed, they took the flag off the boat, stuck it in the sand, and claimed the area as for Iceland. Now, they'd happened to have been lost for some time because it was Africa where they landed, and they claimed it as a colony for Iceland. Now, the people felt very repressed, the natives, because Icelandic people like it cold, Africans like it warm. And the Icelandic people cranked the air conditioning everywhere they went, so the natives had to wear coats and hats, and they felt very uncomfortable. Therefore, when they got their independence, there was a great happiness in the land and much celebrations. They picked an interim leader to send envoys throughout or across the globe and pick a government that they would like to copy for their own. Now they sent envoys to Brazil, Peru, Mexico, USA, Canada, Great Britain, Sweden, Norway, France, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, can't pronounce this stan, and they picked Canada as the government that they liked the best. Now, the Canadian government chose me to go and help them to set up their government. Apparently, I was second choice. The mayor of Toronto, Rob Ford, had promised to party that weekend with some friends. At any rate, when I went over there, my first official function was to speak in front of a large audience, something like the audience here tonight. And as I spoke and told them of our wonderful politicians, how honest they are, how they would work for nothing just for the betterment of the country, and how transparent our government was and how wonderful, people would cheer a certain kind of cheer. They would put one hand in the air and go, "Oompa, oompa," and every time I made a point, they would do this, "Oompa, oompa." So it was. I spoke at length, and it seemed as I went along and as I made points, they got even more excited. And as I finished, to a standing ovation of "Oompa," their leader decided that they should whisk me out the back way so as to stay away from the crowd, because the excitement was wonderful. It was just electricity. As we went out to the limousine, which turned out to be a 58 Volkswagen minibus, but they'd painted the flowers over mostly, we were whisked away, and as we left, he asked me if I would like to visit some of their institutions that they had recently built in their country, and I agreed. So the first place we visited was a hospital, and it was a very modern, beautiful hospital, well equipped with the best equipment that North American money could buy them, and I was impressed. I was so impressed that I mentioned to somebody, the only thing better than being in this hospital is not being in this hospital. So at any rate, we went to, from there we went to a school, a very large school, and it was also very modern. No one was allowed to speak English there because they wanted to keep their heritage, so we couldn't talk to anybody there. We then went to an experimental farm, which I thought was interested me greatly because I grew up on a farm in Canada. Now, some of the experiments that they had done with genetics were very, very interesting. For instance, they had found a herd of pygmy zebras and crossed them with sheep. And to see these sheep with striped wool was very impressive. And I had noticed a lot of people, when I first came to the country, wearing striped wool sweaters, and that answered a question for me. Now, they had also done some work with breeding donkeys and zebras, which they called Z-donks, and it was striking the mules with stripes. They showed up better at night, and unless they were standing behind a white picket fence. If they were, then they were invisible. Now, by breeding them in different positions, they had got the stripes to run horizontally. So that way they were, if they stood behind a white picket fence, they were actually a checkerboard. The zebras were very impressive, and I was very much interested in what they had done with cattle. They had gone to great expense to buy the best sires and bulls for their dairy and beef cattle program. And as I looked at the cattle, I thought it was I was very impressed with their bulls, with their sires. And as we walked behind the bull pens, I was rather alarmed as the leader took me by the shoulders, thrust me aside, and said, "No step in Oompa." Oompa. Thank you.
All right. Larry Arms, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being with us this year. All right, we have some more. All right, here we go. Nellie Coiner from Madison, Alabama. All right, here she comes. From Madison, Alabama. She likes to make people laugh. This is her first Mule Day. So y'all help make her feel welcome tonight. Miss Nellie Coiner.
Well, I want y'all to know this is a true story with my hand up. My mother always whipped me on my right side, and I never knew why. Is this going out? Okay. I never understood why. It was always the right side. But I found out why it was the right side whenever President Bush said, "No child's left behind." I don't know. This man is in the nursing home, and he's sitting there thinking, feeling sorry for himself. And he says, "You know, all my life I wanted to streak, and I never did." You remember when streaking was popular? And he says, "Here I am in the nursing home, and I never did streak, but you know what? I'm going to do it tonight." So about midnight, he gets up, and he starts shuffling down the hall, and he goes through the dining room. Well, these two old ladies was sitting out there in the dining room talking and drinking coffee, and he comes shuffling by, and one of them looks at the other, and she says, "Did you see that? What in this world was that?" And that other old woman looked into her, and she says, "I don't know, but it sure did need ironing."
Nellie Coiner, ladies and gentlemen. That was good. Boogity, boogity. All right, up next we have Daniel Hartsfield. He is a barber with 9 kids. This is his first Mule Day, and he traveled 12 miles to be here with us tonight. And I have to tell you, Daniel is also my barber, so he's the one that keeps me looking good. So not only is he a barber, he's a magician. So Daniel Hartsfield.
Thank you, Adam. Hi, folks. I'm a little shy, so I wasn't really going to come up here tonight. But that first gentleman, where'd he go? I think he's back there. Told that story about the elevator and that little old lady. It got me remembering about this lady that I encountered once. In fact, it might have been the same person. I don't know. Anyhow, this was a long time ago. I was a young man then. And so you know it was a long time ago. But anyhow, my encounter with this lady was kind of odd. I was young, just freshly out on my own, and I went to the store. And I'm going around the store, and I kept noticing this little old lady everywhere I went. When I was on the toilet paper aisle, she's there, she's looking around the corner at me. After a little while, I'm getting a little uncomfortable with this, because everywhere I went, this little old lady was there. And I got the 3 items I needed and started to head to the checkouts. And there's this little old lady looking around the corner at me. And I approached her and I said, "Ma'am," I said, "You're making me a little nervous. You just keep looking at me." And she says, "Oh, son," she says, "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you nervous." She said, "But," she says, "you look just like my son." And she said, "He passed away 3 years ago." And she said, "It just broke my heart. But when I saw you," she said, "you know, it made me feel good for the first time in a long time." Well, then my heart broke, you know. What can you say to something like that? And I says, "Well," she said, "well, we headed up to the front, and I got to the cash register first." And she says, "Do you mind if I go ahead of you?" She says, "'Cause I've got someplace I got to be." I said, "Yeah, that'd be fine." So she unloads her groceries all up on the checkout lane there. And then she turns and she whispers to me while the checkout lady was busy, and she says, "Would you do an old lady a favor?" I says, "Well, if I can, I might." She says, "When I go to leave," she said, "would you hug me one time and just say, 'Goodbye, Mom'?" Now, how can you refuse something like that, you know? So I'm standing there, and she's ringing up and ringing up and ringing up. And now this is a long time ago, you know. And then she got all done. And then she come over to me, and she puts her arms around me. I said, "Goodbye, Mom. I'll see you later." And then I go up, and I put my 3 things up there. Checkout girl rings them up. Should have been about $4, you know. And the lady says, "That'll be $182.73, please." I said, "Whoa." I said, "Toilet paper's gotten high, but it ain't that high." And she says, "Well, you're paying for your mom's stuff, aren't you?" And it dawned on me what happened. You know, I'd done been had. You know, this long before stalking was ever invented. You know. So I go running out in the parking lot, because all I got's a $10 bill in my wallet. You know, I go running out in the parking lot, and here's this car peeling across the parking lot. And I jumped in front of it, and I'm waving my arms. And she comes screeching to a halt. I thought she was going to hit me for a moment. I said, you get out of that car and you go in and you tell them. And she just, move out of my way, move out of my way. And she puts it in reverse. Well, I go running around, and I reach inside, and I grab the steering wheel so that she couldn't turn. And I said, you're going to go in and you're going to tell them what happened. Well, she hits the light pole, you know, and dragging me across the parking lot. And I swing that door open. And I said, you're going in and you're going to tell them. And by this time, there's a crowd gathered, you know. Everybody's looking, saying, what in the world's going on? Well, she wouldn't get out of the car. She wouldn't get out and go in and tell them that I wasn't her son and I wasn't paying for her groceries. And I grabbed her by the leg. And I'm pulling her out of the car. I said, you're going in and you're going to let them know what happened here. And about that time I looked up and there's the police standing there. No, what am I going to do now? And I got this little old lady by the leg just like I've been pulling y'all's leg.
All right. Well, thank you, Daniel. All right. Well, that concludes our adult division. So let's give all those adult contestants a big round of applause. We've had a lot of storytellers this year. That's good. We haven't had as many entries in years past. I'm glad to see that entries are picking up. And we actually have more than 2 young people going to tell with us tonight. So I'm go ahead and call the first one up. Emily Stewart from Columbia, Tennessee. All right. How many miles did you travel to Columbia? She says she lives here, so there's 0. She plays percussion. And I'm ready to hear what she has to say. Miss Emily Stewart.
Okay. Well, there's a story in my family that goes back way generations. So my grandpa, the other night, decided that I was worthy enough to be told it. So I figured I'd tell it. So there's this old man, and his name is Jonah. And he has a mule farm. Well, he loves his mules so much that he would do anything for them. He would sacrifice himself for them, and anybody that's crazy enough to get in his way would, well, I don't know, because no one's come back to tell us. And so one day, when he was going back to his field to do his daily counting of all his mules, he finds that one of his mules is missing, and his favorite mule of all, a mule named Lucy. And so he is just outraged that somebody would even think of taking one of his mules. So he goes down to the woods, and he goes shouting for Lucy, and he goes for the whole night shouting her name, and he just can't find her. And by the end of the night, when he comes back, he's just so sad. He's not this big grumpy old man anymore. He's just sad and lonely and wants his mule back. So he goes inside his house, goes to bed, and so he wakes up the next morning. He goes down into the kitchen to get himself a big glass of milk, and he nudges something with his foot. He picks it up, and it's his glasses. He's been looking for these forever. So he puts them on and goes down to his field just to check to see if his Lucy is there. And so he counts, and she's there, and his gate is closed and everything. He has no idea how she got there. And so then he realizes something, that he had on his glasses and he was legally blind.
Thank you. I was busy playing in the back. Let's see, who do we have next? Madison Stewart, also from Columbia, Tennessee. Come on up here, Madison. All right, she lives in Columbia also. She plays the ukulele and she sings. You didn't bring your ukulele tonight?
I did.
All right, well, tell us a good story.
This is kind of a last-minute decision, so I got some notes with me. So it was the year 2004. There was an old, very old lady. She was 101. She's walking with her cane. It was a mule cane, actually. It had a little mule on the top. It was really cute. She loved mules. So she's strolling down West 7th. She's just taking in all the wonderful sights of Columbia. And so she also had a little bit of dementia, so she kind of lost her way around. And she ran into this barn. And she's really confused at this point. She goes, how did I get here? What's wrong? But all of a sudden, she hears, get out of my barn. And she goes, who's there? Who's there? And he goes, it's Greg the mule. Now get out of my barn. And she goes, well, at this point, she's not thinking about getting out of the barn. She's just, okay, there's a talking mule. What the, oh my goodness. I mean, but we all know mules talk, so it's not really a surprise to us. So he comes out of the shadows of the barn. He's kind of scary looking. He's got a scar across his snout, and he's all creepy. And she goes, oh, well, hello there. And he goes, get out of my barn. She goes, why are you so grumpy? He goes, I just am. Now leave me alone. She goes, oh, I know. You need a butterscotch. She's an old lady. She always got those butterscotches in her purses. And he goes, well, I do like butterscotch. So he eats his butterscotch, and, you know, they start talking, and he starts to be a little less grumpy. So, and the old lady, she goes, well, why were you so grumpy in the first place? And he goes, well, I've never had many friends, and it's just, I've been so lonely in this barn, and it's so awful. So she goes, oh, I am going to be your very best friend. So she's all excited because she's going to have a mule friend, and he's all excited because he's going to have a friend. So they go on tons of adventures, frolicking through the fields, eating fried chicken, and all things that Colombians like to do. And all of a sudden, one day, they accidentally fall into a toxic waste thing. You know, fluke accident. And so they come out, and all of a sudden, they're like, why are our backs itchy? So all of a sudden, they start sprouting, like, butterfly wings out of their backs. Like, how'd that happen? So they're kind of surprised because we're like, whoa, it's like out of a superhero movie or something. Let's go fly. So, you know, they go flying across Columbia. You know, they see the courthouse over there, Walmart over here. It's great. They're taking in all the sights. And then all of a sudden, they're flying past, they're coming back to the courthouse. And they see a little boy. He's hanging from the top of the courthouse, hanging by the minute hand. He's just hanging there at the top of the clock. And the old lady and the mule, they're like, we got to save him. We got wings. It's our duty to do this. So they go, they save the boy, and then they bring him back home. And it was all over the news, too. I mean, this is crazy. Flying mules, flying old ladies. What's going on? But see, no one ever saw them again. But legend has it that they fell into another vat of toxic waste. And they got another power that was shape-shifting, so they could, you know, shift into any shape they wanted to. They could change into a little caterpillar or him, or they could, yeah, anything they wanted to. So we don't know, baby. They could be here. They could be anywhere. They could be standing. They could be him. We don't know. But I don't know. He could be with us. So, and that's all anybody knows. The end.
Thank you. All right. Good job, Madison. I don't know about this boy. He might be the mule. Is it you? I'll tell you what, ukulele is a weird word if you ever see it written out. That's just my 2 cents. William Frawley up next. He's from Nolensville, Tennessee. He is a true Alabama fan, he says, not a bandwagon fan. The Tide's coming in. Oh, no. No.
So my story does have to do with a little bit about college football. So before I get started, I got to find out who everybody pulls for. So I already know who you pull for. We got any Tennessee Volunteers in the house? Woo! Yeah! Any Commodores? You sure you want to admit that? Alabama fans? Anybody? Yeah. So this story, it actually happened. So in 2011, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. There's a door out in the back. No, but in 2011, when Alabama played Auburn in Auburn and beat the snot out of them, I'm just saying, and went to win the national championship. I'm just saying. But me and my friend Alan were coming back from Auburn, and we're getting close to Tuscaloosa, and we noticed that we were running out of gas. So we're looking around for a gas sign. I was $3.50 there, $3.40 there, and we look up at a sign that says free chicken dinner with every fill-up. So we pull into this gas station, and a clerk comes out to fill up the car for us, and he goes, what'll it be? And Alan goes, fill it up for us. And he fills it up, and he goes, all right, I think it was $64 is what it was. And so Alan pays him and goes, what's up with that free chicken dinner at every fill-up? And he goes, well, you got to play a game to qualify for the free chicken dinner. And he goes, all right, I'll play. And then I went up first. He goes, all right, you got to guess a number between 1 and 10. And if you get it, you get a free chicken dinner. I said, okay. 4. And he goes, no, it's 2. And Alan goes, let me try. 7. He goes, I told you it was 2. So we get a little bit closer to home, and we have to go to the bathroom. So we stop at a store, go to the bathroom. We come out just in time for a show. And this guy walks up to the counter and says, yeah, I have a RC and a moon pie. And this guy goes, the cashier goes, you're an Alabama fan, aren't you? He goes, are you stereotyping me? What makes you think that I'm an Alabama fan just because I come in here? I resent that allegation. If someone walks in here and orders vodka, would you necessarily think they're from Russia? The cashier goes, nah, it's just never happened. Well, if someone come in here, orders pasta, would you think they're Italian? No, it's just never happened. Well, if someone come in here and orders sausage, would you think they were Polish? No, sir, it's just never happened. Well, why do you think since I come in here and order RC and a moon pie, you think I'm an Alabama fan? Well, sir, this is a hardware store. So, being an Alabama fan, I got to make fun of Auburn. I got to do it. So, I actually heard this is a real thing that happened. So, they had walk-on day at Auburn, and they had this guy walk up. Coach Malzahn goes, how tall are you, son? And he takes his hand, starts down at his feet, and works his way all the way up to his head, and he goes, I'm 6'5". He goes, well, how old are you? He starts counting on his hands and toes. He goes, I'm 19. He goes, well, what's your name? And he starts doing this little dance, just Nick. He goes, okay, well, I understand the hands and the feet, but why did you do the dance to remember their name? And he goes, well, the only way I can remember, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
War Eagle. William Frawley, ladies and gentlemen. William reminds me a lot of one of my favorite authors and storytellers, Louis Grizzard. And Louis Grizzard wrote, one of the titles of his books is Chili Dogs Always Bark at Night. And the older I get, the more I realize the truth in that title. The final contestant tonight, Zoe Johnson, 802 Academy Lane. Come on up. All right, from Columbia, Tennessee. She was born on her daddy's birthday. Not many people can say that. That's a true feat, I would say. I imagine she's got a good story for us. Ms. Zoe Johnson.
Hi, my name is Zoe. I go to school at Columbia Academy. While I'm there, I have Bible class every day. I'm going to tell you the real story of Noah, not the ones you have seen or heard about in the movies. In the beginning, God said to Noah, I want you to build me an ark out of gopher wood, about the size of a football field. Noah said to God, what is gopher wood? God said, Noah, hush up and go for wood. Noah and his 3 boys went to chopping on the cedars of Lebanon, which I hear is just up the road. Noah and his 3 sons, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, built the ark. It took a long time. After the ark was finished, they started gathering the animals 2 by 2, 1 male, 1 female, separating the ants from the anteaters, the dogs from the cats, and so forth. After they finished, they waited for rain. On the first day, they marched around the ark as quiet as could be. On the second day, they marched around the ark as quiet as can be. On the third day, they marched around the ark as quiet as can be. 4th day, 5th day, and 6th day. But on the 7th, they marched around the ark 7 times, and their horn blower blew his horn, and the raindrops started to fall. The rain came down, and the floods came up. Sing along. The rains came down, and the floods came up. The rains came down, and the floods came up. The rains came down, and the floods came up, and the foolish man's house went splat. During the 40 days and the 40 nights that it rained, Noah and his family lived in the bottom of the ark in the lion's den. God shut the mouths of the lions, and they were not harmed. After 40 days and 40 nights, the rain stopped and the water receded. The ark landed on Mount Ararat. When Noah got off the ark, he looked around and said, there is much water here. Let us build an altar. He and the boys began to build the altar. They worked and worked, putting one stone on top of another, until they had an altar so tall it reached the sky. King David noticed the tall stone altar and came to investigate. He saw the ark and said, let us take the ark to Jerusalem, that we may worship there. But that's another story maybe for next year.
All right, thank you, Zoe. And I lied to you again. We have another contestant. That was not our last contestant. Let's see, Miss Christy Ann Dye. She's going to tell a story for us tonight. She's from Mount Pleasant, Tennessee. So y'all give her a big hand. Look at her. Here she comes right now. I like your boots. Here she comes.
Well, good evening. Let me present to you Miss Cressley and I. And just for the record, neither I nor her mother condone lying. Right? Children can be a blessing, no doubt about it. There's many different ways that you get your joy from them. About 3 weeks ago, we started having a little friend come and visit us, and she was mentioning her name, and little did we know, but Maddie is Cressley's best friend. You see Maddie out here?
Yeah.
Oh. Maddie is Cressley's invisible friend, just for the record. But they do adventures and go on a bunch of little stories, and she comes over the house all the time.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Yeah.
What else does she do?
Play.
Y'all play together?
Uh-huh.
What else?
Sing.
Y'all sing? Oh, does Maddie have any brothers or sisters?
Yeah, sisters and brother.
How many brothers or sisters does she have?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
That's a lot. Now, what's her little brother's name?
She's a baby, right?
Right. Does she have any? What's his name?
Lucas.
Locust. Yeah. Oh, does Maddie have any puppies or kitties?
A puppy.
What's his name? Or what's the puppy's name?
Cupcake.
Cupcake.
Yeah.
What does Cupcake do?
He poops in the potty.
Are you sure?
Huh?
Why we've never seen them? Where are they at?
They're at Bonnie's house right now.
They're at the boys' house? We don't like boys, do we?
Yeah. Huh?
Are you sure?
Huh?
What happens if you if little boys come over?
You beat him up.
I'll beat them up.
You beat him up.
Because little boys has cooties, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they have pooties. They have what? Pooties. You said that.
All right. Is there anything else you want to tell us about Maddie or Kitsky? What?
She is so bright.
Well, Maddie, and if we ever get to see you, we'd like for you to come visit us. All right. Tell them bye.
Bye.
All right, thank you. How old are you, Christy? How old are you? 3? 3 years old. All right, well, that concludes our competition tonight. That's all of our children's entrants in the competition. Are our judges ready? No, not yet. All right, well, while they're tallying up their votes there, I'm going to bring them this sheet of paper. Maybe they make it a little bit easier on them for the kids' names. All right. Anybody that wants to come up and tell another story, you want to come up? All right. Sure. While she's making her way up, I want to remind everybody, well, you can stay there if you want to, I'll hand it down. Want to remind everybody about the concession stand. They still have drinks, candy, popcorn, and their pickles. Also, they have the T-shirts out in the lobby. Go check them out. Here you go, ma'am.
This is really a true story with my hand up. My granddaughter is 10 years old, and my daughter and she live next door to me. Tuesday of this week, for some reason, I got really sick, and I had to go to the ER. And they didn't know what was wrong, but anyway, I'm okay. I'm not contagious. So the next afternoon, when she came home and off the bus, and she came into my home, and she says, "Granny, are you feeling better?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Oh, is this going to be the end of you?" Anyway, did you hear it? Well, my friend wanted me to tell you about the guy with the parrot. Everybody has a favorite parrot joke, I think. But this man went to the pet store, and he bought a parrot. Took him home. He gets home, and the parrot had obviously belonged to a sailor or somebody that talked really bad. So his friends are coming over. The parrot has just got the nastiest mouth, cussing, saying the awfulest stuff you ever heard, and embarrassing him in front of his friends. So finally, he just got tired of it, and one day, he just grabbed that parrot by the neck, took him down to the basement, and threw him in the freezer. And he went back upstairs, and he got to missing him. Got to feeling bad about what he had done. And so he went down there and got the parrot out of the freezer, brought him back up, set him back up on his perch. And so now his friends are coming over. The parrot is just as nice, yes, sir, no, sir, just as nice as he could be. And so one day, he said, "Sir, can I ask you a question, please?" And the man said, "Sure, what is it?" He said, "What did the chicken do?"
All right, we have somebody else like to tell us a little something.
I'm new to town. I work for the Daily Herald. I was at the gas station the other day. I had to wear this. Someone came up and says, "What happens if I do?" Anyway, my mom and my sister are here. I didn't get to see whether she was brave enough to come in, but this is a true story about my mother. Honest. She's single. She kind of likes, her eyes kind of wander sometimes. Usually to the younger ones, you know. So everywhere we go, I have to watch her, and she's like, "Do you see that young one over there? Woo, woo, woo." I said, "Mom, don't do that. You're embarrassing me. We'll go to the mall." She said, "Look at that one over there. He's mighty fine." I said, "Mom, don't do that." So I came home and my sister, she's sitting over here. She's hiding. I said, "Dawn, I can't go out in public anymore with Mom. She's embarrassing." Mom struts up. She says, "What's so wrong with that? I'm just one of those coyotes." I said, "What?" "You know, women who like younger men. Coyote." I said, "Mom, the term is cougar."
All right, it looks like our judges have made their final decisions here. We will start with our kids division. Our third place winner is Miss Christy Ann. So whenever I call your name, make your way up to the stage here. We have you a little something. Our second place winner, Zoe Johnson. And first place in our children's division, Mr. William Frawley. Roll Tide. Let's give all of our winners a big round of applause. Is the Herald still here? I was going to see if they wanted to get pictures with our winners over here, but if they're here, you might want to just stay on this side of the stage. They might want a picture with you. While I'm talking about the press, I'd like to give a mention to CPWS PowerNet 13. They're here covering the Liars Contest, as is the radio station, WMCP. So I appreciate them being here with us tonight and covering our Liars Contest. And again, appreciate all of y'all being here. Now on to our adult division winners. Third place, Mr. Ron Fletcher. Where's Ron at? Here he comes. Second place, Fred Frawley. And ladies and gentlemen, your grand champion, biggest liar ever, Gary Holt. There he is. So y'all come on up. Let's let all these folks, these fine liars, come on stage here. Here they come. There's number 1, number 2, and number 3. Y'all give them a big round of applause. And the lady in the blaze orange there might want to grab a picture of you as you come off the stage. Would you like to sign off? All right, well, that's it for me, and that's it for my portion of the Liars Contest. I hope y'all have a great day at the parade tomorrow, and thank y'all for coming.
Give a warm welcome for our MC and also for our judges. Once again, thank you for coming. They say this is one of the largest crowds that we've had in quite a while, and definitely a larger number of participants. Be planning for next year and thinking of your life to come back with. Have a good evening.